Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Tonight's video features true scary movie theater going experiences. I hope you enjoy. I want to take time to thank Plague Games. Plague Games sends me amazing stories all the time, guys. So big shout out to my friend. Sit back, relax, stay sinful. Story number 1. My name is Tom and I'm 25 years old. 2 years ago I went to see the new It movie that everyone was talking about. I got to my local movie theater around 11:15 p.m., about 15 minutes or so before the movie would start. I bought myself popcorn, a large Sprite and a few candy bars. When I arrived in the auditorium, it was empty as to be expected. I sat down and went on my phone while the commercials and trailers play. 2 minutes after I arrived, a man walked into the auditorium. He looked to be about 6'4", with long black hair, and was wearing a long black leather coat. He sat in the same row as me, but on the other end. The movie was about to start. I put my phone on silent and began focusing on the movie. As I was putting my phone away, I looked across at the guy that came in after me, and I could see him staring at me. The auditorium was dark, so I couldn't see clearly, but I'm sure he was looking right at me. I looked away and back at the movie. I was a little weirded out, but I tried to tell myself he wasn't staring at me. Maybe he was just zoning out or whatever. I'm not sure how long it was into the movie, maybe around 20 minutes or so, when I took another glance at the guy, and this time he was definitely watching me. His body was turned towards me and he was staring right at me. I looked back at him for a few seconds, very scared and confused as to what this guy was doing. Once more I looked back at the movie, tried to ignore him. Though inside I was freaking out. What does this guy want, I thought. I then heard a shuffling noise coming from where the guy was. Bravely I looked back at him. This time he wasn't staring. He was seemingly watching the movie. However, I noticed that he moved about 4 or 5 seats closer to me. I had no idea what this weirdo was up to. I thought to myself, if he does one more weird thing that makes me feel uncomfortable, I'm just going to leave. Funny enough, though, at that point he got up and walked down the stairs towards the exit. I was thinking to myself, please just leave. Right before turning around the corner through the exit, he stopped. He didn't turn around to look at me or anything. I swear he must have stood there for 2 minutes before finally leaving. I took a breath of relief, thinking I might be able to enjoy the rest of the movie. And I did, because thankfully the man never returned, and I was beginning to forget about him. I left the theater and got in my car. Just before leaving the parking lot, I looked in my rearview mirror to see the same guy staring at me from across the parking lot. I stared back at him while feeling my heart sink. He then started walking towards my car. Of course, at that point, I drove as fast as I could out of there. I have no idea who this man was or what he wanted with me. After this incident, I never went to the movie theater at night, and I certainly didn't go alone. Story number 2. My name is Brett, and this story happened when I used to work at a movie theater about 6 years ago. I used to work on concessions, selling popcorn, drinks, candy, and hot dogs, and all sorts of things. I mainly worked late until closing, because stupidly during my interview, I said I could work anytime, any day. On my first day, me and some other employees were shown around the building, on how everything works, where everything is, etc. This is important for later on in the story. At one point, we were shown where to take out the garbage. You had to go through a fire exit, which only opened one way, and walk down what was like an old abandoned building site where the garage bins were. It was important that you don't shut the door behind you, because like I said, it only opened one way. However, the guy showing us around closed the door and said if it does close for whatever reason, this is how you get out. He proceeded to show us how to get back into the theater. You had to go down some hallways, up some stairs, through this and through that. It was a very large area and sort of underground. I remember thinking at the time, I hope I don't get locked in here, because I will never remember this. For the first 3 months of working there, I had no problems taking out the trash. However, this night was different. I think it was a Wednesday at 1:30 a.m., and the last movie had just finished. So I would nearly be done with my shift after I finished up cleaning. It was just me and one other employee. Like most nights, I went through the door to take out the garbage. As I threw the trash away, I heard a door slam shut. My first thought was, oh, no, please don't be shut. I turned around and saw the door was now closed, so I was now locked in here. I went up to the door and knocked a few times, also shouting out for my colleague's name. Unsurprisingly, I never got a response and no one opened the door for me. I sighed and thought, okay, I better just try and remember how it was to get out of here. I started walking around clueless, trying to find a way out. Shortly after, I heard footsteps down the corridor behind me. At first I was thinking, thank God someone can tell me how to get out of here. When I turned around, I couldn't see anything though. Hello? I called out. No answer. Weird, I swear I heard someone. I shrugged it off and carried on walking around. Not even 10 seconds later, I heard the footsteps again coming from behind me. Who's there? Hello? No answer once again. However, this time as I was looking around behind me, I saw someone watching me from around the corner. I had to watch closely for a second to make sure what I was seeing was real. It was. There was someone watching me. I think it was a man with his hood up. I spoke out once again, this time with fear in my voice. Hello? Who are you? The figure then ducked out of sight. This freaked me out a lot. I ran up some nearby stairs and rushed down some more corridors. In my head, I'm thinking, please, God, just get me the hell out of here. I stopped for a second because I thought I heard footsteps again. I did, but it wasn't walking this time. Now it was full out running. I turned around and the running noise was coming from the stairs down the corridor. I quickly ran into a room and hid behind some large boxes. I hid there for what felt like hours as I listened to those footsteps. It sounded like he was going around through each room. I thought, I need to move, otherwise he will find me. As quietly as I could, I looked outside and checked around. The coast was clear. I was feeling very claustrophobic and was panicking for my life, to be honest. I think due to adrenaline, I was just running around. By some miracle, I bumped into two of management who were walking towards a car park, which you can also get to by walking through this weird, large, empty area. When the two managers saw me, they asked if I was okay and why I was out of breath and looked so frightened. I told them what I saw and what had just happened. They looked confused and said to me, I don't know who could be in this area. The only way in is through my management office, which only employees can go through, and the fire exit which I went through. The person I saw certainly wasn't the employee working with me, or any management. I got out through the parking lot, finished my shift and went home. I worked there for 2 more months without incident. I didn't take out the trash, however, and when I did, I always make sure someone was with me. I have no idea who that man was, or worse, what he wanted with me. I'm certain it wasn't any staff, so the only thing I can think of is whoever was in the last movie of the night stuck around, and for some unknown frightening reason, followed and went after me. Story number 3. My name is Alice, and this story happened a month ago. I work at a movie theater in my local town where I work late evenings and some late nights. It's quite a small theater where you buy everything at one counter, like food, tickets, and that sort of thing, because it was never busy. It was a Friday night around 10:30 p.m. There were only a few movies left to see, and as usual, it was pretty dead at this time. It was just me and another staff member, but they were in the screens cleaning up. I was leaning with my back against the counter scrolling through Twitter when I thought I heard something behind me. I turned around to see a man standing there watching me. I startled and let out a slight laugh, saying, "Oh, you made me jump." The man gave no response and continued watching me. He was wearing a red hoodie, blue jeans, had black stubble, glasses, and was wearing a Boston Red Sox hat. My smile started to fade as I said, "How can I help you?" "One ticket to Annabelle and a medium hot dog, please." I went to get him his hot dog. As I was waiting, I could just feel him staring at me. I took a quick glance to check, and yeah, he was watching me still, with that dead expression. First, I was just feeling awkward. Now I was feeling uncomfortable. I gave the man his hot dog and ticket. He looked at me with a confused face. "Can I help you with anything else, sir?" He replied saying, "I thought I said I wanted onions." Certain he never asked, but I said, "Oh, sorry, give me a second." I went to put onions on the man's hot dog, but when I turned around, he was gone. I scanned the seating area. I couldn't see him anywhere. In fact, I didn't see him for the rest of the night. The next day, I went into work and my boss, Natalie, who was also a good friend of mine, said she needed to show me something in the security room. She showed me footage of last night's recordings. I couldn't see anything at first. Nat then asked me, "Do you know that guy?" "What guy?" I replied. She then pointed at a man who was hiding around the corner spying on me. It was the same weirdo from last night. He was just hiding behind the counter watching me. I felt sick knowing the fact I had no idea this man was just watching me for ages. Nat then showed me another clip from the same night. It was when my back was against the counter on the phone. The man stood behind me like I knew, but after watching the security footage, he was stood right behind me watching me for about 10 minutes without saying a word. My boss Nat said to tell her if he comes by again. It's been a month and I haven't seen him around yet. Story number 4. So in my town there was a small 5-screen non-profit indie theater, which does a lot of first-run independent films and that sort of thing. The theater is usually pretty quiet and empty during the week except for 1 or 2 employees and a handful of regular patrons. I'm a pretty pretentious guy, so I end up at this theater a lot more than I do at the Regal across town. This one evening a few months ago, my girlfriend and I go to the theater to catch a movie. Like I said, the place is usually very quiet, so we didn't think much of it when we walked into the theater and only saw one other person. That is until we walked up the aisle and saw that this rather obese man had surrounded himself with a group of troll dolls. Usually something children play with until they're about 5 and then give up on. Except this man was clearly in his mid to late 30s, 300 pounds and balding. We don't really say anything to each other, but quietly move down to the very end of the row. That way we can keep him in our peripheral vision. He is 2 rows behind us and roughly centered in his row. We live in a small town somewhat notorious for bizarre townies, so we were a little worried but not too creeped out at this point. The movie starts and all is well and good for a little while, until we hear talking and a couple laughs. Remember now that we're the only 3 people in the theater. I take a quick glance back to see if maybe I've missed seeing someone else enter the theater. Nope. The man is talking and laughing with his creepy little troll dolls all laid out on the armrests. At this point I'm sitting a bit on edge, glancing over fairly regularly while still trying to watch the movie. He quiets down eventually, and so I focus more on the movie, until he stands up and shuffles into the aisle. I swear at that moment I was sure that it was all over, and this man was going to murder me and serve me as an appetizer to his trolls come dinner time. I keep him squarely in my vision for the next 20 minutes, till he goes back to his seat and resumes talking to his dolls. Time goes by and nothing else happens. Credits roll and my girlfriend and I sit there for a few minutes, waiting for the man to pack up his trolls and leave. The credits are still rolling as we step out into the aisle, turn the corner to go to the exit, and almost run into him standing. We avoid any eye contact and walk as fast as we can without running until we reach the car. I don't know if there was any danger or anything wrong here. He never made any threatening moves, and for all I know, he was perfectly safe but mentally ill. That said, I don't even remember what movie we went to, because I was so terrified of this man. Thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for future videos. Until we meet again, stay sinful.